Have you ever wondered if the man you're dating is truly falling in love with you? Maybe you've noticed a shift in his behavior, or perhaps you've heard him ask questions that seemed innocuous, but left you feeling uncertain about their meaning. Let me share with you something that might change the way you interpret those questions, and even how you understand men in general. When a man is in love, his brain actually undergoes a real transformation. Gone are the days when he only thought about the here and now. Suddenly, he's imagining a future, and you may be part of it. The questions he asks during this process are far from casual. And today, we're going to break them down so that you can better understand the emotional and neurological shift taking place. These are the questions that reveal if a man is imagining you in his future, and how you can respond to keep that emotional connection growing. Now, let's dive into the first big question. When a man asks you, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" It might seem like a simple, probing question, but it's so much more. Neuroscience shows that when a man is falling in love, his brain begins to think long-term. His prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for planning and foreseeing the future, becomes active. So when he asks you about the future, it's because he's already imagining you in it. This isn't casual curiosity. This is an emotional assessment. He's trying to figure out whether your life goals align with his. For example, I remember a client who had been dating a man for a few months. One day he asked her this question, and she was taken aback. At first, she didn't understand why it mattered. But soon after, she realized that this was his way of determining whether their lives could truly merge. The moment she answered with clarity and honesty, their connection deepened in ways she hadn't anticipated. When a man asks about your future, it's more than a casual question. It's a clue into his emotional investment. He's thinking long-term, and he's checking to see if your paths can merge. If you're evasive or nonchalant, it might signal that you're not on the same wavelength emotionally. But if you respond with confidence about your goals and your dreams, you show him that you're thinking about the future too, and that you're both building something real together. The second question is one that requires immense vulnerability. What do you feel for me? At first glance, this might seem like a simple inquiry into your emotions. But from a psychological standpoint, this is an act of deep trust. A man has been conditioned from a young age to guard his emotions. To ask you this is to peel away that emotional armor he's built up over the years. I once worked with a man who asked this very question to his girlfriend. She responded with a vague answer, unsure how to express herself. Over time, they grew more distant. What I noticed was that her inability to respond with vulnerability led him to shut down emotionally. On the flip side, I've also seen couples where one person, despite the fear of rejection, answers with honesty, and it changes everything. This question represents a moment of emotional risk. For him, asking what you feel for him is an invitation to share his heart. But many women misinterpret this vulnerability. They respond with a simple, "I like you," thinking it's enough. But for a man in love, this question is an emotional lifeline. When you respond with authenticity, you offer him the reassurance he's craving, strengthening the emotional bond. Now let's talk about the little things. The questions like, "Did you eat today?" Or, "Did you get home safely?" At first glance, these might seem trivial, but they're powerful indicators of love in development. A man who asks about your safety, your well-being, and your day is showing you that he cares deeply about you. When you're apart, men, in general, compartmentalize their lives. They can focus on one thing at a time, whether it's work or their hobbies. But when a man asks these questions, it means that you occupy a permanent space in his thoughts. You've transcended the compartmentalized boxes of his life. I recall a conversation with a woman who was frustrated by her partner's constant check-ins. She saw them as annoying, but after discussing it in therapy, she realized that these questions were his way of expressing concern and affection. It was his emotional way of saying, "I'm thinking about you, even when we're not together." The final question in this exploration is perhaps the most revealing. Do you want to meet my family? This question transcends all others. It's an invitation into his world, an unspoken declaration that he sees you as someone important enough to integrate into his most intimate circle. Meeting his family is an acknowledgement that he wants you to be a part of his long-term future. Bonus insight on the question of family. A man who invites you into his family's world is saying, "I trust you." But more than that, he's saying, "You're important to me. You belong here." The invitation to meet his family isn't something he does lightly. It's a serious step in building a life together. The real question I want you to reflect on is this: how do you respond when he asks these crucial questions? Whether it's about the future, your feelings, or your daily life, these are not just casual questions. They are signs of emotional investment. A man who asks these questions is looking for a deep, lasting connection, and your response can either bring you closer or push him away. Mature love requires vulnerability. It's about being authentic, honest, and brave enough to share your true self. When he asks, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" give him the truth. When he asks, "What do you feel for me?" show him your heart. And when he asks about your day, appreciate the care behind those small questions. So, ask yourself, are you ready to recognize love when it shows up in these quiet yet powerful ways? If you are, then you're on the path to building a relationship that is real, lasting, and filled with emotional depth.